morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name is Ross, and as always told out of Voice of Radio. So today, we need to take a look at the Baby Trio. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. The Baby Trio, Cleffa, Igglybuff, and Togepi have actually gone and won a tournament over in Japan. Now, it was a fairly small tournament, admittedly. Little local shop tournament, not a huge tournament. But when we saw this card, we were all like, it's so cool, in theory, it will never work. So the fact that it's actually worked and gone and won is so awesome. So we need to have a good old chat about it. Now, shout out to both Code64X and TaloniteX on Twitter, who both sent me, within about an hour of each other, this list. Both very excited, as I was when I received it. Now, if we have a look here, really what we're aiming for is a GX attack, the wonderfully named Supreme Puff GX. 2 Fairy Energy, take another turn after this one. If this Pokemon has at least 14 extra Fairy Energy, that is 16 in total, attached to it, your opponent shuffles all of their bench Pokemon and all cards attached to them into their deck. So your goal here is extremely simple. You need to make sure that your opponent has a Pokemon in the active with 120 or less HP, and then you use a GX attack to get rid of all of their bench, and then you use Rolling Panic for 120 to KO the active. Now, Rolling Panic also lets you flip a coin until you get tails, and you do 30 more damage for each heads that you hit, but that is massively risky. Because what you don't want to do here is use a GX attack for 16 energy, get all of your opponent's bench Pokemon off, and then miss the active KO. Because you're rocking a 240 HP free prize Pokemon, you're not really playing any backup attackers. This is a one-shot deal. Either this works or it doesn't work, but either way, you're done. Alright? It's over. Cool. Now, the other good news is that this should work pretty nicely outside of Japan. I know this is a Japanese list, but honestly, you're just not missing all that much. Now, in terms of other Pokemon, you are going to need other Pokemon to make it work. And there are 2 Pokemon that you really need. And the first one is Magneton. Magneton is pretty gosh darned important. You see, Magneton, it should be very reminiscent here of the Mismagius that we've all been playing, or at least we've all had the opportunity to play. In that you may knock it out, which is, of course, giving your opponent a prize. But then, you get a nice handy bonus. What does Magneton do? Magneton lets you search your deck for free supporter cards. Now, that is absolutely huge, because, of course, you search out Lieutenant Surge's strategy, and then 2 other supporter cards. Which supporter cards do you search out? Morgan. Morgan is your goal here. Now, this is an extremely difficult combo to pull off under regular circumstances, because Morgan only works if you discard Dana, Evelyn, and Nita from your hand. So what you actually need here is 9 supporter cards in hand in order to play Morgan twice. You need Lieutenant Surge's strategy, 2 Morgan, 2 Dana, 2 Evelyn, 2 Nita, and then you can go ahead and use Morgan twice. And usually that should be borderline impossible, but you play a 4-4 Magneton line. So all you need to do here is KO free Magneton, and then you can search your deck for 9 supporters, and you're good. Now, I keep talking about playing 2 Morgan. Why are we playing 2 Morgan? Because Morgan lets you look at the top 12 cards of your deck and attach any number of energy cards you find there to your Pokemon in any way that you like. Now, bearing in mind here, you need 16 energy on the Baby Trio to get this attack working. Although, to be fair, you only really need to hit 14 energy with your 2 Morgan, because you attach 1 per turn. And with Magneton needing a turn to evolve, it's going to be at least your 2nd turn before you can actually get this. And that is the basic conceit of the deck. You are trying to use the Baby Trio, so you use a bunch of Magneton to search out your Lieutenant Surge and all of your Battle Chatelaine ladies, get all your energy onto the Baby Trio, and you're off. As a side note, Lieutenant Surge's strategy can only be played if you're behind on prizes, but given that this deck revolves around Magneton, and Magneton gives up a prize, and you are going for that one turn win. You have one turn in the game where you're going to win. If you don't pull it off, you ain't going to win. Simple as that. You need that one turn. You're not taking any other prizes. You will be behind on prizes, so don't worry your pretty little head about it. You're going to be absolutely fine. Now, there are some other Pokemon here, and honestly, the biggest loss this deck actually takes is Alolan Vulpix. Now, having said that, you can play this deck in Expanded, and honestly, it's going to be as good in Expanded as it is in Standard, or even better, because it'll be slightly more consistent with cards like Computer Search, and even like Level Ball to get your basics out. And to be honest, Expanded would be a good place for this, because again, it's just a one-shot deal, it's a one-turn win. You can let your opponent take a bunch of prizes, and then you've got that one turn where you win the entire game or you don't. It really is that simple. I say one turn, it's really 2 turns, but you get to take 2 in a row, so it's fine. But Alolan Vulpix here is a bit of a pain that we've lost it, because Alolan Vulpix for 0 energy lets you search for 2 Pokemon. And for the first few turns, that is what you want to do to actually get your Magneton set up and rolling, so it is a little bit of a shame. It's not the end of the world, but it is a bit sad. The other Pokemon we play here is actually Alolan Ninetales, because when you evolve into it, you get to search your deck for a couple of item cards and put them into your hand. That's going to be very, very important to get rolling, and we might as well mention a card here that we are very much relying on, Counter Catcher. You see, you can only use it if you're behind on prizes, but that's not a big deal. Incidentally, I know we don't have this in Standard, but you could literally just play 2 Custom Catcher, use Alolan Ninetales to search for 2 Custom Catcher, and it would provide the exact same function. It's one more card in your deck, but it's a very easy substitution, so it's not a huge deal. And what you're doing with Alolan Ninetales is guaranteeing the Gust. Gusting up one of your opponent's Pokemon that you can get a KO with using Togepi and Igglybuff and Cleffa. Because remember, if you don't get a KO on the active, it's all for naught, it's all wasted, it's all gone, it's done. But that's all right, because you can do that with the Gusting. And like I say, Custom Catcher here will work perfectly. And this deck does play a Tapu Lele, but honestly, you're grabbing all of your supporters pretty easily with Magneton, so you could swap this out for a Dedenne and it really wouldn't be a huge problem. If you're not worried about the changes, by all means only play it in Expanded, but I think we can make it work in Standard here. Now obviously we're playing a whole bunch of Fairy Energy. I believe there's actually 23 basic Fairy, but this is one of those where you just have to do a bunch of testing and see what works. Now, in terms of trainer cards, honestly, we've been through the main ones here. Morgan is obviously absolutely huge, and Lieutenant Surge's strategy is very important because you will often want to be playing multiple supporters in a turn, especially if you can search them out using Magneton. But we also have here Professor Elm's Lecture. Gets out all of your Magnemite, etc. in the early game, that's pretty important. We actually have a Misty's here. Now, Misty's Favor, pretty gosh darned important, lets you search out free supporter cards, so it's not necessarily for this turn, but it does mean that you can potentially, if you only need to play one Morgan, you could use Magneton and Misty's and then play a second Morgan off of the Lieutenant Surge. And then we play a Gladion because something might be prized. And to be fair, this particular list only plays one of the baby trio. If that's prized, you literally lose without Gladion. That's not good. We also see some Ultra Ball here, but there's other Pokemon search. Using something like Professor Elm's Lecture is quite nice. You're playing a few Pokemon, so you can try playing something like Pokemon Communication. Yeah, the Ultra Ball sucks that we've lost it, but I don't think it's a game-breaking thing. If we have a look at the list as a whole, it really is the Alolan Vulpix and the Ultra Ball. They're the only things we're really missing here. Does that mean we're not going to be able to get our Pokemon out consistently enough? I'm not 100% sure, but I think there's other stuff we can use, and I very much think it's worth having a play with. What I will say is, we didn't think this could work, and it absolutely does. And even if you change this list around a little bit, we've got the basic skeleton of the deck, and that is Magneton, Battle Chatelaine Ladies, and Lieutenant Surge. They are the things that are going to make or break this deck. That is how this deck actually goes about working. And I, for one, could not be very much more excited. I think it's amazing. But I'd like to know what you think about it. So let me know in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at The Wassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WassyPlays, where we talk about a whole bunch of games that don't even have any Pokemon in. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.